So what attracted you to do this film, Dwayne?
Very easy. First of all, it was Rick Waugh who brought it to me, and when he brought me the project, I knew immediately I wanted to do it, and that is the truth. I had known Rick for some time. The last movie he did was a smaller movie called Felon, which was an incredible movie. So the moment I got the call from him, and he says, I have something for you, I think that's pretty special, I was already in, and I read the script. I loved it. I was moved by it. I was moved by the fact that not only was this based off a true story, but also just moved by the fact of a guy who it wasn't considered your typical hero, and in the face of adversity, didn't immediately stand up and face it and fight through it. He crumbled and was scared to death and didn't know what to do, and that's real life, and that's how we would be in real life. So those elements of the script, I read it and loved it, and here we are.
And this is a role for you that you don't play very often,
Right.
somebody who's so vulnerable. Was that something that was very scary for you to play?
It wasn't scary for me to play, but I was certainly aware that I had never dove into those type of emotions, especially on screen. You know, it's different when we have everyday life and we go through our problems and in our relationships, and you have your own levels of vulnerability that you show with your loved ones. But it's another thing on screen too. So not necessarily scared, but well aware, and also aware of the challenge for me too as well. And was very comfortable in the hands of my director, which any actor will tell you is just so important, that he sets a tone and tempo and provides that space for you to be vulnerable and be emotional and be dramatic and all these things that you have to tap into. The one important element I always had to keep in mind, personally for me, that just helped my process was the fact that I knew I would do the exact same thing to save my child.
Do you think that there are limits that you would go to that you wouldn't cross for your child, or that there are no limits?
I think there's no limits. Oh, I would do anything. I would do anything to protect my child. And I mean that with every fiber of my soul. I'd do everything to protect your child too, and it's what we do as adults. We protect our children from violence and from harm and from danger, again, you know, I'll go back to the material. I'm so grateful to get this type of material that allowed us to tap into that and showcase, especially these days where you have it's not easy, but it sure is fun to create characters who are larger than life, and they're very heroic, and they have big hearts of gold, and they stand up in the face of adversity, and they and they save the world. And by the way, I've played those characters, which I enjoy. Something like this where he's not that man, but rises to that occasion eventually, is very special.
Could you briefly, for people who haven't seen the movie, explain a little bit about your character, who he is, what he does for a living?
Sure. He owns a trucking business, and family man, divorced, has a child, has an 18-year-old son with his ex-wife, remarried, and they have a little 7-year-old daughter. And his son winds up getting busted, having drugs on him. First time, non-violent offender, not a drug dealer, wound up getting set up by his friend. And the minimum mandatory drug laws is you get racked with 10 years. That's what you're looking at. 10 years, and it's non-negotiable. And the only way it is negotiable is if, quote, you snitch. And you help the government by snitching on other drug dealers that you know. Well, in this case, my son, it's a first-time offender. He's not a drug dealer. He doesn't know any drug dealers, so there is no snitching. And his father, the man I play, has struck this incredible deal with the U.S. attorney, saying that I will infiltrate a drug cartel down in Mexico to reduce my son's sentence. The U.S. attorney signs off on it, and all hell breaks loose.
And this is based on a true story, is that correct? Or is it based on a few different true stories? And did you ever meet the man who this was inspired on?
No, good question. I never met the man who inspired this story, or the family who inspired this story. It is based off of true events, and you know, that was another thing too. When I was reading the script, about every 20, 25 pages or so, I had to stop. I had to call Rick Waugh, the director, or I would text him and I would say, hey, so take me through this process. So this really happened? He'd say, yes, this really happened. And he really went down to Mexico and the drug cartel? Yes, this really happened. And then I saw the documentary. I was really, really impressed with this. So, you know, one of the most important things from Rick's standpoint as a writer and director was just to make sure that we were authentic and we were very respectful to the family who went through this.
And how about Susan Sarandon? What was it like being in a room with her, acting with her?
I wish there were more words, more intelligent words, but I could just tell you awesome. It was, to be with Susan Sarandon was great. I had been such a big admirer of her and her work for years now. So she's a titan in our business, and wonderful to work with her. Barry Pepper, John Bernthal, Benjamin Bratt, the whole cast, by the way, Michael K. Williams, all of them wonderful to work with.
Wonderful. I just wanted to ask, also you being a father, could you balance seeing your child while you're filming? That must be tough to do too.
That's tough. It's challenging. Making movies is challenging because you're always on location, or the hours are very long and the work is very long. But you just got to find a balance. And when it comes to family, as busy as we are, as full as all of our plates are, regardless of what we do, you always make room for your family. So just finding a balance. But that's the way it is in life, though, too. We got to find a balance with everything that we love, that we want in our lives. We got to find a balance with it.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much, Dwayne.
Thank you. It's good to talk to you.